Alright, so we're going to do a pre-trip on this truck. So when you approach the vehicle, or when you're coming up to your truck that you're going to be testing, you want to get like a general overview of the vehicle. You know, you want to look for any type of obvious damage that's been done. Maybe somebody backed into it, a tree limb fell on it, just anything that's just obvious, a flat tire even. You know, did a kid throw a rock and bust out the window? Then the next thing you're going to do, you're going to walk up and you're going to go inside the truck for the vehicle inspection report. You want to check the previous time it was driven. You want to check your log and all that, make sure there's nothing in there that you need to, be aware of. Then we're going to come back up. We're going to look underneath the vehicle. We're going to be looking for any leaks or puddles. We want to check from the transmission, the engine, or the radiator. And then the way I like to work from the top down. All right, I got my marker lights up there at the top, and I've got my blinkers. Now remember, these are not blinkers. That is a passenger side blinker. That is a driver side blinker. This is a passenger side headlight, a driver side headlight. We gotta be real specific on the test. So starting at the top with my marker lights, there's 4 phrases I gotta say. Marker lights are properly mounted, secure. They're not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. They're clean, clear, and functional, and they're amber in color. All right, now we're going to come down here to the blinkers. I've got the passenger side blinker here and the driver side blinker there. They are the same 4 phrases. They're properly mounted, secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. They're clean, clear, and functional, and amber in color. Now I'm going to come to the headlights. I've got my passenger side headlight and my driver side headlight. They are 3 phrases on these. It's properly mounted, secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged, and clean, clear, and functional. A lot of times, we're going to be painting with a wide brush, if you will. That's just to cover everything to make sure we pass. All right, so now we're going to come over here to the passenger side of the truck. I'm going to check the windshield wiper blade and arm. We're only going to check one wiper because we're just demonstrating a pre-trip. So we're just going to do one wiper blade and arm. I'm going to make sure the wiper blade and arm is properly mounted, secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. I'm going to check the wiper blade. I want to make sure it's not missing, it's not cut, chafed, spliced, worn, or damaged. I'm going to check for proper tension on the wiper arm. I'm going to make sure the wiper blade makes complete full contact with the windshield and that it moves smoothly. Now I'm going to check the windows. I'm going to call out all 4 pieces of glass and I'm going to treat them as one. So I've got the front windshield, the back window, the driver's side window, and the passenger side window. They're properly mounted, secure. They're not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. They're clean, clear, and functional. So you're going to learn your phrases right there. Then once you learn your phrases, that's just going to come natural. Then you're just going to say little things that's, different for every little item. Like, so your windows would be illegal stickers and obstructions. So that's what we're going to say. So we're going to say properly mounted, secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged, clean, clear, and functional. And we're going to check for any illegal stickers or obstructions. Just anything that's going to stop you from seeing out the windows. Then we're going to come to our brackets and fittings. That's a fitting, that's a fitting, that's a bracket, that's a bracket. Properly mounted, secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. We're going to check for any loose or missing nuts, bolts, or cotter keys. I know there's not any cotter keys here, but you just want to get in the habit of saying these things a certain way. That way when you get to the other side, when you do need to say cotter keys, you're going to be in the habit of saying it. Now we're going to get to the mirrors. We're going to do the mirrors the same way we did the windows. They're properly mounted, secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged, clean, clear, and functional, and we're going to check for any illegal stickers or obstructions. Now, depending on the type of truck that you're in, like this particular truck right here, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, it's got 5 rows. Now, we can use that as a memory aid. So, look at the truck that you're in and see if there's ever anything there that can help you remember, what you're doing on your pre-trip. So here, the first row, I got my battery box and cover. Properly mounted, secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Row number 2, I got my batteries. This truck is equipped with 2 batteries. They are both properly mounted, secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Since they're batteries, they have liquid in them. We want to make sure they're not leaking. Row number 3, my terminal posts. I just want to make sure they're tight. So we got it. And you have to say it that certain way also. You can't, these tests, man, it's really strange, but they want to hear your verbiage a certain way. So here, we want to make sure our terminal posts are tight. All right, we're going to check for excessive corrosion on your terminals. Again, make sure you say excessive. If you just said corrosion, then you wouldn't get it. You got to say excessive corrosion. And finally, row number 5, we're going to check that all the cell caps are present, so we're not missing any cell caps. So that's going to be your initial. Now let's walk over here. We're going to do the inside Engine compartment on the passenger side. Open up this hood. We got 4 things we're going to talk about over here. We got our washer fluid reservoir, our coolant reservoir, our belt-driven alternator. Remember, it's belt-driven on this side, gear-driven on the other. So we got our belt-driven alternator and our belt-driven water pump. So if we'll call it a belt-driven alternator or belt-driven water pump, later on we won't have to say, oh, this is my alternator, it is belt-driven. Just one less thing to have to remember. Alright, so I got my windshield washer fluid reservoir. It is properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Since it's a reservoir, we're going to make sure it's not leaking. If I were below the add line, I would add more washer fluid here. But I'm above the add line, so I don't have to worry about it. I got my coolant reservoir, properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Since it's a reservoir, make sure it's not leaking. If I were below the add line and needed to add coolant, I would add coolant here. Always show where you would add coolant if you were below the add line. Now this truck has a reservoir. If it did not have a reservoir, I would make sure the engine was cool, remove the radiator cap, visually look in and see if I need to add coolant or not. From there, I'm going to come over here to my belt-driven alternator. Make sure, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to work from the front of the alternator back. I'm going to check the belt. I'm just going to poke it here with a stick and make sure I have no more than 3/4 of an inch of play on the belt. Then I'm going to come back to the belt-driven alternator, make sure it's properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Now behind the alternator, I got my wiring. 4 phrases we got to say about the wiring. The wiring is properly mounted secure, not cut, chafed, spliced, worn, or damaged. The wires are not rubbing against anything. And I'm also going to look for any bare wires showing through the insulation, anything that could maybe, I don't know, cause a spark or a fire. From there, I'm going to come over here to my belt-driven water pump. Now, I can't see the belt. I mean, it's just, I can't see it nowhere. So usually what I always tell people, just get your stick or wedge your arm in there or something and say, make sure I don't have no more than 3/4 of an inch of play. Then I'm going to come over here to my belt-driven water pump, make sure it's properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Since it's a water pump, we're going to make sure it's not leaking. Then we're going to check our radiator hoses right here. We want to make sure the radiator hoses are properly mounted secure, not cut, chafed, spliced, worn, or damaged. We're going to check for any abrasions, bulges, and cuts. And again, since this is radiator hoses, we want to make sure they're not leaking. Now let's come over here to the driver's side of the vehicle. And when you're taking your test, when you get done with a section, stop and just review it. You know, when you're taking your test, this is not a race. You know, I miss stuff all the time. So, you know, don't trust me, go buy your book, right? Alright, so again, I'm going to go, I like to start at the front, and I'm going to work my way back, down, and toward myself. Alright, so I'm going to start with my belts. This truck is equipped with 2 belts. Now I check the tension on the other side. I ain't checking the condition. That's 2 separate things. I'm going to make sure the belts are properly mounted secure. They're not ripped, frayed, or cracked. I just forgot that. Now I'm going to come to the dipstick here. To check the oil in this vehicle, you're going to pull the dipstick out, wipe it clean, stick it back in for a couple of seconds, pull it back out, and make sure your oil is above the add line. If it were below the add line, you would add oil here. So if you're putting fluid in anything, whether it's power steering fluid, oil, you always want to show where you would add more fluid if you were below the add line. So coming from the oil dipstick and the add, where I would add oil, I'm going to get over here to my airlines. And don't just point at just these airlines, just talk about any airlines you can see. Alright, I'm going to make sure the airlines are all properly mounted secure, not cut, chafed, spliced, worn, or damaged. And that phrase, cut, chafed, spliced, worn, or damaged, that's for anything that's pliable. If it's pliable, like a wire, airline, or a hose, you want to say cut, chafed, spliced, worn, or damaged. If it's a hard material, like a steering shaft, power steering gearbox, gear-driven air compressor, that would be cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. So, but if it's pliable, it's going to be cut, chafed, spliced, worn, or damaged. Alright, so my airlines here, they're properly mounted secure, not cut, chafed, spliced, worn, or damaged. I'm going to make sure they're not rubbing against anything. Since it's airlines, we're going to be listening for leaks. From there, we're going to go to the wiring right here. Well, actually, just not right here, just anywhere we can see wiring. We're going to make sure all the wiring is properly mounted secure, not cut, chafed, spliced, worn, or damaged. I'm going to check that the wiring is not rubbing against anything. I'm also going to look for any bare wires showing through the insulation. Alright, so to review, I got my engine belts, I got my oil, got my airlines, I got my wiring. So now I'm going to come over here to my 2 gear-driven components. That is a gear-driven air compressor. It is properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Since it's air compressor, we're going to make sure it's not leaking. We're going to listen for air leaks, just like we did on the airlines. We're going to listen for air leaks. Now we're going to come behind the gear-driven air compressor. We're going to check the gear-driven power steering pump, making sure it's properly mounted secure and not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. This is the power steering pump. We're going to be checking for leaks on that. Now I've got my hoses, my power steering hoses that come off of there. We're going to make sure they're properly mounted secure. They're not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. They're not cut, chafed, spliced, worn, or damaged. We're going to check that for leaks. And from there, I got my frame right here. Now, when you're taking this test, they're testing you, not the truck. So a lot of times there might be something like on your frame. You got your longitudinal members, the cross members, the box and floor. I can't see a box and floor here, but remember the examiner is going to be testing you, not the truck. So I got my longitudinal members, the cross members, the box and floor, and I'm going to be checking for cracks, holes, broken welds, and damage, and make sure everything is properly mounted and secure. Now from there, I'm going to come over here to my power steering reservoir. I want to make sure it's properly mounted and secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Since it's a reservoir, I want to make sure it's not leaking. Now this reservoir is a little different. It's got a sight glass. So I can visually see I'm above the add line, but if it were below the add line, I would add more power steering fluid right here at the top. All right, so now, you know, that would be a good spot to kind of review a little bit if you're taking your test. Because remember, if you're taking your test, you're going to be stressed out, you're going to be nervous, you know, and all that. All right, so now I'm going to get to my steering components. There's 9 components that we call out. So we're going to start with our 20-inch steering wheel, our steering shaft, our power steering gearbox, our pitman arm, our drag link, our steering knuckle, our spindle, our steering arm, and our tie rod. Now if you're taking your test, you might want to just do 3 at a time, because they're going to say, well, you've just named way too many components at once. So yeah, you'll probably just want to do 3 at a time. So out of the components I just named, I'm going to make sure they're all properly mounted secure, they're not cracked, broken, or damaged. I'm going to check for any loose or missing nuts, bolts, cotter keys. That's 5 words on that. And I got my power steering gearbox here. I want to make sure it's not leaking. You know, you got hoses going to it, so let's make sure that's not leaking. And you just want to also check it. You know, everything you say doesn't have to be scripted, so you can go, look, I just want to make sure everything looks put together the right way. I just want to make sure nothing's bent, it's not twisted, it just looks right. Then you're going to check your joints and your sockets. That's a good one. A lot of people forget that joints and sockets right there. And you want to make sure the joints and sockets are not loose and worn. One way you can do that is by grabbing your steering shaft here and making sure it doesn't turn no more than 10 degrees. You got about 30 degrees on that. So that's all of our steering components, in case I forgot something, but I don't think I did. Now we're going to get to the suspension. Now you need to identify what kind of suspension you have. Now this truck's got a leaf spring suspension. So you got, so that's your leaf springs right here. So you got your front leaf spring hanger and bushing. Now back here we got our rear leaf spring hanger and bushing. A lot of times you can't see it here, but every vehicle is different, so you're going to want to identify what kind you have. So my front leaf spring hanger and bushing, we're just going to say properly mounted, secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Now our bushing, we're just going to make sure it's not damaged or missing. Isn't that right? Damaged or missing? Yeah, damaged or missing. Now we're going to get to the leaf springs. The leaf springs are probably mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. We're going to make sure they're not missing or shifted. Yeah, you don't want those to shift on you. Then we got our U-bolts and bolts and other axle mounted hardware right here. We want to make sure that's all properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. We're going to make sure we don't have any loose, missing, or worn parts. So if you'll listen, 90% of what I'm saying, I'm just repeating myself. Properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Properly mounted secure, just repeating again and again. We got our shock. Properly mounted secure, not leaking. That's pretty simple. So that pretty much that completes our suspension right there. Front leaf spring hanger, rear leaf spring hanger, front bushing, rear bushing. Got our springs, our axle mounted hardware, and shock. That's all the suspension on this truck. Now we're going to get to the air brake system. Now back here, first thing we're going to come to, I'm working from back to front here. I got my brake chamber. Properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. And we're going to be listening for leaks, because remember it's the air brake, so we're going to listen for leaks. Now this brake chamber here has got a little rubber diaphragm that moves forward and back. We want to make sure the brake chamber is not dented, because that would stop that diaphragm from moving back and forth. Now I got my couplings and my air lines right here. Make sure they're properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. The air line is not cut, chafed, spliced, worn, or damaged. And since it's air lines, we're going to be listening for leaks. Now, coming off of that, I got my push rod here and my slack adjuster right here going up and down. That's the automatic slack adjuster. I want to make sure they're both properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Make sure they're not bent or twisted. I'm going to be checking for any loose or missing parts. Now that's the automatic slack adjuster. If it were a manual slack adjuster with the wheels chalked, I would release the brakes in the truck, and I'm going to pull my slack adjuster out, or my push rod out. If I can pull that out an inch or more, that's going to indicate to me that my brakes are out of adjustment and they need to be adjusted. Now getting into the brakes themselves. A lot of times you can't see the brakes because there's a dust cover there. But that's what I was talking about, that they're testing you. So the examiners want to know that you know what you're talking about. If you can't see it, you know what you're looking for. So the brake pads themselves. All right, we're going to make sure our brake pads are properly mounted secure. They're not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. The brake pad is not missing. It's not worn dangerously thin. Now in Georgia, we want to make sure our brake pads are not worn dangerously thin. A lot of videos it says a 1/4 inch of brake pad left. In Georgia, we got to say worn dangerously thin. Now we're going to look inside the drum. Now we want to make sure there's 4 words we're going to be looking for. Contaminants such as debris, oil, and grease. Contaminants, debris, oil, and grease. That's anything that would be inside the drum, so when you hit the brakes, you don't want the brakes to be pressing against grease or something, so that would be bad. Then we're going to go ahead and check the condition of the drum. We want to make sure the drum is properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. We're going to be checking for any dents or holes in the drum. Now we're going to get to the tire. The way I do the tire, I like to put my hands on both sides of the sidewall. That is to remind me to check that the tire is properly seated to the rim. That little bead that rides in the rim on the outside sidewall and the inside sidewall. Then we have another little memory aid right here. We got 5 treads. We got 5 things to talk about right here. Number 1, we want to check the condition of the tire. Not just the tread, but the sidewalls as well. We're going to check for any abrasions, bulges, and cuts on all 3 sides, or possibly any fabric showing through. Number 2, we're going to check for even tread wear. We want a nice, smooth, even tread with no dips or valleys in it. We don't want to see anything like that. We just want a nice, smooth tread. Number 3, we want matching radials, no mismatched tires. All the tires on this vehicle, not including the trailer, just the truck here, we want all to be matching radials, no mismatched tires. Number 4, since this is a front tire, we want a minimum tread depth of 4/32. And finally, we're going to make sure this tire has got 100 psi in it. And you're going to show the air gauge to the examiner. You're going to say, I would check the air pressure with this air gauge. If you don't do that, you won't get credit. So make sure you show them the air gauge. And you're going to check that at the valve stem and cap, and make sure the cap is not missing. The valve stem is properly mounted secure. It's not cut, chased, spliced, worn, or damaged. It's not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. We're going to make sure the valve stem is not leaking. And that's where you would check your air pressure with your air pressure gauge. Now we're going to get to the rim here. We're going to make sure the rim is properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. We're going to check for any type of welding repairs that might have been done to the rim. From there, we're going to get to our lug nuts and bolts. The lug nut and the bolt. We're going to make sure they're not loose or missing. If a lug nut was loose, one indication would be rust trails or shiny threads. We're also going to check for any cracks or distortions. That's on the lug nut or the rim. Say if it got over tightened or whatever, you could have some type of spider webbing effect. From there, we're going to go to the hub oil seal. We just want to make sure the hub oil seal is not leaking. And just always make sure to know the difference between a hub oil seal and an axle seal. You really want to know that. Then from there, we're going to get to the splash guard and the mud flap. Now look, there's not a mud flap here. But again, they're testing you, not the truck. So we got our splash guard, our mud flap, properly mounted secure, not cracked, broken, or damaged. You're going to make sure your mud flap is not rubbing against the tire or dragging the ground. Alright, so moving back from the splash guard and the mud flap, when you're taking your test, bring you some water or something because you're going to get thirsty. You're going to need all that talking, you're going to be stressed out, you're going to be tired. Alright, so moving back from the mud flap and splash guard, I got my fuel tank here. The fuel tank is properly mounted and secure, not cracked, broken, or damaged. Since it's a fuel tank, I want to make sure it's not leaking. Got my fuel lines up here. That's the only exception with lines. Lines have air, hoses have liquid, with the exception of fuel lines. We want to make sure they're properly mounted secure, not cut, chase, splice, worn, they're not damaged. We're also going to make sure they're not leaking. I got my fuel cap, 3 things. Take off the fuel cap here. Alright, we want to make sure we got our little chain here, our lanyard. We want to check that we have our little rubber O-ring. We don't want fuel splashing out. And then the third thing is, we're going to make sure our fuel cap is tight. So we got our chain, our lanyard, we have our O-ring, we're going to make sure the cap is tight. Then we're going to come to our steps. We're going to make sure the steps are properly mounted and secure to the fuel tank. That's really important. They're properly mounted and secure to the fuel tank. They're not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. They're clean and free of any debris, and they're solid. And what that means is when you step on a step, it's not going to wiggle or anything like that. I'm going to come to the door here. The door is free of damage. Make sure my door opens and closes properly from the outside. I got my exhaust. It's properly mounted secure. It's not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. All my fittings are tight. I'm going to be checking for any exhaust leaks. Anywhere on my exhaust here. And the way I could identify an exhaust leak would be carbon soot or rust. A lot of truck drivers have died, went to bed, and didn't wake up the next day because exhaust leaked into the sleeper. Now when I open my door here, what I'm going to come to first here is my lock. I want to make sure the door locks properly from the inside. I'm going to check my door hinges and seals, making sure they're properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Got my weather stripping right here. Make sure that's all properly mounted secure, not cut, chase, splice, worn, or damaged. I got my clutch pedal, brake pedal, and accelerator pedal. All 3 are properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. And I'm also going to check to make sure they're not sticky. The floor is clean and free of debris. My seat is properly mounted secure to the cab. I got my seat belt here. I'm going to make sure it's properly mounted secure. It adjusts properly, latches correctly. It is not ripped or frayed. Very important. Behind the seat here, I got my fire extinguisher. It is properly charged and rated. Behind the passenger seat, I've got 3 reflective triangles. If I am on a divided highway, I'm going to put the triangles out at 10 feet, 100 feet, 200 feet. If it's a 2-lane road, I'm going to put it at 200 feet in front of the truck, 10 feet behind the truck, and 100 foot behind the truck. That's on the 2-lane. Then I'm also going to check for 6 spare electrical fuses. Now, if you say 6 fuses, you will not get credit. You got to say 6 spare electrical. That's pretty much what we do. Our initial in cab there. From there, when you move to the back, we've got our header board here. It's properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Able to restrain cargo. So other than your phrase, able to restrain cargo. You got your curbside doors. They open and close properly from the outside. Check your door hinges and seals. Properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. You got your lights on the side of the truck. I'm going to check all my lights and reflectors, marker lights. Properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged, clean, clear, and functional. A lot of times we have like an amber marker light here is what actually I was looking for, this on the other truck. But then you'll have your red ones and your reflectors. So you got red in the back, amber elsewhere. Same phrase. When you get back here and you're doing your back tires, and we'll get more into that in a minute, just remember, you've got 2 tires, you've got 2 rims. You got 2 valve stems. You got 2 valve stem caps. So remember all that. Now your suspension, we're going to do that pretty much the same as we did it in the front. You got your leaf springs, your front leaf spring hanger, rear leaf spring hanger. Now back here in the back, you've got your pintle hook. You've got your chains in a crisscross position. The hooks are facing inward. You got your pintle hook mounting bracket. You got your pintle hook. You got the tongue of the trailer here. And we'll get more into that because I want to get underneath the truck, so we'll stop it right there. So underneath the truck here, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my frame. I got my, it depends on what test you get. You may get from the cab back. If you get from the cab back, then of course you didn't do the frame at the engine there. So I got my longitudinal members. I've got my cross members right here, and then here we got my box and my floor. That's what the box and the floor would be. That being the discrepancy there. So I'm going to make sure all these 4 pieces I just named, I have no cracks, holes, broken welds, or damage. From there, I'm going to get to my drive shaft and my coupling. make sure they're all properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. And I'm going to check for any foreign objects or debris inside my coupling there. Now, I got my tires back here, I got my brakes, brake chambers, suspension. So I'll start right here with my brake chambers. Just like in the front, I got my brake chamber here, properly mounted secure, not cracked, broken, or damaged. Since it's an air brake chamber, I'm going to be listening for leaks, and I'm also going to make sure there's no dents on it. Coming off of that, I got my air lines and coupling. Both are properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. And the air line is not cut, chased, spliced, torn, or damaged, and I'll be listening for leaks. I got my push rod and my slack adjuster. It's kind of hard to see because we got grease and stuff all over them, but the push rod comes out of the brake chamber, and the slack adjuster comes up from the push rod just like it does in the front. They're both properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Going to make sure they're not bent or twisted, and we're going to look for any loose or missing parts. Now these are automatic slack adjusters. Just like in the front, if they were manual, we would release their brakes with the wheels chalked, and we would pull out the push rod. If we can pull that out an inch or more, that would be an indication our brakes are out of adjustment. So I got my brake chamber, push rod, slack adjuster, air lines, and couplings. All right, so now I'm going to go over here to my my suspension, my leaf spring suspension. Now here I can't see my shock. It's kind of back there past the rear end. So when you're testing, if you got a part like that that's kind of hard to see, you might want to start with that one component first. That way you don't miss it. So I got my shock back there. You can kind of raise up and point it out to the examiner. So that's my shock. It's properly mounted secure and not leaking. That way, because you're going to be stressed out, you're going to be nervous. So you might want to just do those parts that's hard to see first that you might forget. Alright, so my leaf spring suspension here, I got my front leaf spring hanger here, and right back there is my rear leaf spring hanger. They are both properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Now right inside this leaf spring hanger is my leaf spring hanger bushing. I got my front one here, and back there is my rear leaf spring hanger bushing. They are not missing or damaged. Now I've got my leaf springs right here. The leaf springs are properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. I'm going to make sure the leaf springs are not missing and they're not twisted. Alright, now I've got my U-bolts and the bolts. My U-bolts and bolts and other axle mounted hardware. That's all properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. I'm going to make sure nothing's missed, loose, worn, nothing's twisted. Everything looks pretty good there on my U-bolts, all my axle hardware. Okay, now I'm going to get over here to my brakes. The brake pads themselves. I want to make sure my brake pad is properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. The brake pad is not worn dangerously thin. It's not cracked. It's not damaged in any kind of way. Then we'll look inside the drum. Make sure I have no contaminants such as debris, oil, and grease. The drum is properly mounted secure. It's not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. I'm going to check for any holes or dents in the drum. From there, I'm going to get to my tire. And again, it's like I did on the front tire. I'm going to put my hands on both tires. Make sure my tire is properly seated to the rim on the outside and inside, but I'm going to do both tires at the same time. Because if I do them both at the same time, I'm less likely to forget stuff. So both the outside and inside sidewall on both tires is properly seated to the rim. Then I got my treads here. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So number 1 here, I'm going to make sure that I have no abrasions, bulges, and cuts, or possibly any fabric showing through on all 3 sides of the tires. That's both the outside and inside tire. Number 2, I'm going to check for even tread wear, a nice, smooth, even tread. I don't want to see dips or valleys. That's on the inside tire, the outside tire. I'm going to check for matching radials. I don't want to see any mismatched tires. All the tires on this vehicle need to be matching radials. Alright, number 4 here, I'm going to check that I have a minimum tread depth of 430 seconds. Nothing below 230 seconds on the back tire, 230 seconds. And then finally, with my air pressure gauge, I will check that I have 100 psi back here, and I'll do that when I get out from underneath the truck. Now, in between my tires here, I'm going to check for any debris or foreign objects or anything like that that could have got stuck between the tires. I'm going to check my bud spacers. I'm going to make sure the bud spacers are properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. I'm going to check that they're centered, they're evenly spaced, and not rusted through. And while I'm back here, I'm going to go ahead and check my my inner rim. I want to make sure it's properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Make sure I got no welding repairs on the inner rim, and I'm also going to look for any type of cracks and distortions on the inner rim. So the inner rim is properly mounted secure, not cracked, been broken, or damaged. There's no welding repairs on it, and I'm also going to look for any cracks or distortions. Alright, so I'll climb on out from underneath here. And you can always go over your inner rim and outer rim again when you get out of the truck. So here I got my inner rim and outer rim. I'm going to go over that again. They're both properly mounted and secure, not cracked, been broken, or damaged. I'm going to look for any type of welding repairs that might have been done to them, and I'm also going to check for any cracks or distortions on the inner rim or the outer rim. And I'm going to check my air pressure. I got my air pressure valve and cap. That's the outer tire and the inner tire. They check both caps and valve stems are both properly mounted secure, not cracked, been broken, damaged, not cut, say splash water damage. The caps are not missing, and I'm going to be making sure the valve stems are not leaking. And I'm going to check my my lug nuts and my bolts. They're both. I'm going to make sure they're not loose or missing. If a lug nut was loose, I would know that. I would have shiny threads or rust rails. And I'm also going to look for any cracks or distortions on the lug nuts as well if it was over time or something like that. This is an axle seal. You can see it looks different than the hub wheel seal in the front. I'm just going to make sure that's not leaking. Now right here, got my splash guard, my mud flap, and we're going to do that the same way as we did up front. Making sure it's properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. The mud flap is not rubbing against the tire or dragging the ground. Alright, so this is the coupling right here. That's your coupling, your chains, your power cord. Now we call these the glad hands. I understand they're not glad hands, but this truck doesn't have them, so I just painted them orange a long time ago. Because again, you know, they're just testing you, not the truck. When you get back here to the back of the truck, maybe you want to go in toward yourself or start to the left, work to the right, however you want to do it. Now your lights, you're going to just do those like any other lights. Don't forget your backup lights and your tag. Your tag is going to be properly mounted secure. It's within date, it's not expired. You'll want to say that. Your backup lights, you're going to just say properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Clean, clear, and functional. And just make sure it works. You'll do a catwalk. If it's on the tractor trailer, it'd be different, but we've been calling this a catwalk because anything you can do to get just extra points on, use it. Let's see, catwalk here. You're going to make sure the steps in the catwalk is properly mounted and secure to the frame. You want to make sure it's not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. You're going to want to make sure it's clean and clear of any debris or obstructions. You don't want to step on your catwalk and trip and fall down. You got your DOT reflective tape, properly mounted secure, so the proper color, not peeling off. Your chains. You want to make sure your hooks are facing inward. They are properly mounted secure at all 4 attachment points. As you see over here, it's got 4 attachment points. You want to make sure they're not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. And again, they're properly mounted secure at all 4 attachment points. They're not kinked, they're not dragging the ground, and they are in the crisscross position. I'll go ahead and do my electrical cable here. I want to make sure it's properly mounted secure at both ends. It's not cut, chafed, spliced, worn. It's not damaged. It's not dragging against the trailer or the truck. It is not I don't see any bare wires showing through the insulation, and it's not tangled or pinched. I've got my glad hands here, or my makeshift glad hands. They're properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. Inside of you got your red emergency and your blue service. Inside of there, you'll see inside the glad hands, it'll always be on the right hand side, you'll see a little rubber O-ring or a seal, whatever you want to call it. You just want to make sure that's not damaged or missing. And then when you connect it together, when you connect them, your glad hands together, you're going to listen for leaks and make sure your air lines, you're going to say the same thing that you did on your power right here. You're going to say, okay, my air lines are properly mounted secure, they're not cut, chafed, spliced, worn, they're not damaged, they're not rubbing against anything, and I'm going to be listening for leaks on the air lines. All right, so from there, I'm going to go to my pintle hook. I got my pintle hook mounting bracket. It's properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. I'm going to look for any loose or missing nuts, bolts, cotter keys. From there, I'm going to get over here to my my pintle hook. I'm also going to look for any loose or missing parts on the pintle hook mounting bracket. Now here on my pintle hook, I'm going to make sure it's properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. I'm going to look for any loose or missing parts. I'm going to make sure it's in a closed and locked position. Alright, it's broke, but there's supposed to be a hitch release lever right here. I'm going to make sure that's all properly mounted secure. My safety latch is properly mounted secure. I'm going to look for excessive wear and stress cracks. That's on my tongue right here and my pintle hook. Excessive wear and stress cracks. You know, you just want to make sure that the sucker isn't going to break. So you can use a little, you know, part of your test is going to be scripted, but you know, you can add your own little phrase to that. You just want the examiner to know that you want the truck to be safe. Does that make sense? From there, you're going to come back to the tongue. This is the tongue frame right here. So you get your longitudinal members, the cross members, box and floor, just like we did with the engine compartment. So you're going to check longitudinal members, cross members, box and floor. You're looking for cracks, holes, broken welds, and damage. And you're also going to make sure with the tongue, only for the tongue, you're going to make sure it's not bent or twisted. You're going to add that. Cracks, holes, broken welds, damage, bent, twisted. But the bent and twisted is only for the tongue. But now you can add it on the whole frame. Any part of the frame you do is so if you just want to remember it that way, if it's easier for you. Because remember, you can always say more than you need. Alright, from there we're going to go to the landing gear. The landing gear is in the upright stow position. It's properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. I'm going to check for any loose or missing parts. This landing gear is hydraulically operated. And make sure my hydraulic hoses here are not cut, shaved, spliced, worn. They're not damaged. I'm going to check for leaks. I'm going to check my landing gear support frame. It's properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. I'm going to check for any loose or missing parts on that as well. Now over here we've got our tongue storage area. And make sure it's properly mounted secure to the tongue. The floor is solid and all the cargo is secure. So 3 things on that. Then you go back to your header board, properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged, able to restrain cargo. So that right there, that's pretty much your tongue. It depends on the trailer you have. Look in the book. Maybe there's something more you can add to it. Maybe something I forgot, didn't add. Maybe I said something wrong. So just always double check all that. So if you have any questions, just send us a text or an email. All right. Now we're going to do the end cap. And we already did the initial end cap. Now the examiner may say, hey, you can't do it right then or right there. So you might have to, you know, adjust depending on the examiner you have. But we have it though. We have the 3 5s and the 4 2s. Okay, the first 5 with the truck doesn't have to be running, but the lights, with the lights on, we're going to check 5 outside lights. And you're going to signal the examiner. You're going to say, okay, my left turn signal, my right turn signal, so that's 2. You're going to say my high beams, that's 3. You're going to say your 4-way lights or your hazards, and then number 5 would be your brake lights. So that's your 5 outside lights. And then at that point, the truck needs to be running at that point. Now you could be running before that, it doesn't matter, but now you need to crank it up because you're going to be building your air pressure. And she's going to hop in the truck with you, then you're going to do your second 5, which is going to be your 5 inside lights. That's going to be your left turn signal, your right turn signal. Now if the turn signal doesn't work or the high beam light doesn't work or whatever, that's fine. They're testing you, not the truck. So you got your left turn signal, your right turn signal, your high beam light, your hazard lights, and then you're going to mention that your ABS light has gone out. And that's why a lot of times I say wait till she gets in here, that way you can demonstrate to her that the ABS light has gone out. So okay, so that's your second set of 5. Okay, the third set of 5 is your 5 gauges. So I've got my volts, my oil pressure, my temperature, and then I've got air pressure twice. Once is that it is building, and then it is cut off. So I'm going to say to the examiner, okay, I got my voltage here. Okay, I'm showing about 14. That looks pretty good. That's where it needs to be. My oil pressure about 40 psi. If I give it some fuel, bumps up to 50, so that looks pretty good. Temperature not running hot. Whatever your standard temperature is for that vehicle, usually around 200. That looks pretty good. Then you're going to say, okay, my air pressure, I am building air pressure, and then you'll say, I have stopped building air pressure at 120. So that's your third set of 5s. Now you got your 4 2s. Your first set of 2 is your mirrors and your windows. So you're going to say, okay, I'm going to make sure my mirrors are properly adjusted from the inside of the cab. And you can say, then you're going to go over the windows again, just like you did on the outside, but you're going to go from the inside. I've got my driver's side window, my passenger side window, my front windshield, and my rear window. They are all four properly mounted secure. They're not cracked, bent, broken, or damaged. They're clean, clear, and functional. I'm also going to look for any illegal stickers or obstructions, just anything that'll block my view. So that's your first set of two. Your second set of two will be, say, your windshield wipers and your washers. So you're going to cut the wipers on. You will actually cut them on, and you're just going to make sure they operate smoothly. And then you're going to cut on your washer fluid to make sure that sprays out correctly. So that's your second set of two. Third set of two, you're going to make sure you have no more than 10 degrees of play on your steering wheel, and then you're going to hit your horn to make sure that works. Then finally, your fourth set of two, you're going to cut your defrost on, and then you're going to fill up here. But make sure you put your hand up here. If you don't put your hand up here, you won't get credit for the defrost. Then when you cut the heat on, you're going to put your hand down here for the heat. And they need to see you do that. That you're demonstrating that you know how to check that the heater's working. That's the idea behind that. And with the initial that we already done, that would, if you'll keep that in order, it'll kind of ensure that you don't forget anything. But if it works for you, use it. If it doesn't work for you, then don't worry about it. Use anything you can use that helps you.